All right, so we are live and we have our monthly community call with the Codex community, and we also have our friends from TACo here to share their experience working with Codex and Waku in a hobby project that turned into a good cypherpunk reference project that we built over the last couple of weeks. So yes, before we get started, I would like to introduce you to Manu from TACo team and also Aj from TACo team. Do you guys want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Perfect. So yeah, I'm going to give a quick introduction to Codex and then leave the stage for the TACo team to introduce TACo to the audience that we have here. And also Vaslav is here with us from the Waku team. So he'll also be giving you a quick walkthrough of Waku as well. So Codex is basically the storage layer of the Logos technology stack. And Codex is a decentralized storage network that you can leverage for storing data in Web3. And yeah, that's pretty much Codex. And we have Waku, which is the communication side. And all these technologies together formulate the Logos technology stack. And we have TACo, which is an interesting addition to the cypherpunk stack that we have. So Manu, do you mind introducing about TACo, or Aj?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so TACo is a decentralized access control and secrets management plugin. More broadly, it's an end-to-end encryption layer that we envision existing across a whole range of applications. So one of the analogies we've used is like Signal, the messaging app, protections, but not just applied to point-to-point textual messaging. We've been live on mainnet since January of 2024, so it is usable in production right now. In fact, we are generating revenue from some interesting use cases, including crypto inheritance. So that's a key recovery use case, very high stakes, very sensitive data. We've also seen integrations into some interesting data sharing patterns, including things like open DRM, so digital rights management, managing decryption rights for media, and also a couple new areas where advanced permission controls are really critical, like decentralized AI, compute, agentic RAG, that kind of thing. We have been decentralized from the very first byte of data that was encrypted under our crypto system. And we have about 100 nodes that are collectively providing this access control enforcement.
Perfect. So Vaslav, do you also want to take a few minutes to introduce Waku?
I'll do my best, Guru. So Waku is a set of protocols, SDKs, and a network allowing you to communicate in decentralized, censorship-resistant, and private manner. What it means is that if you're building an application, ideally that is a decentralized application in any form, you want your pieces of application or instances of application to communicate in a way that they can't be traceable, they can't be prevented from the communication itself. And that's what we are trying to build. There are obviously many pieces to that. So maybe it's a browser application and then it needs to communicate with some kind of a backend, some kind of a distributed, decentralized backend, or maybe it's just a local first desktop application where instances communicate with each other directly. And all those use cases can leverage Waku as a kind of no infrastructure solution for the communication. So something that normally would go through a centralized server now can go over an existing peer-to-peer network where no single user, unless the application explicitly makes it very easy, can be traced and can be prevented from using that. And then obviously you can see many synergies between Waku and Codex and TACo as various solutions coming together to build kind of complex and private and censorship-resistant solutions to existing problems.
Yeah, I think one thing that all of us have been emphasizing over the years is about blockchain not being the core and single component of Web3. Web3 has a lot of other technologies like TACo for decentralized access control, Codex for storage, and also WACO for communications. So all of these technologies constitute to the cypherpunk stack that is being more popular after Vitalik mentioned it a couple of times in the last few of his talks. But then this has been there for a long time, even before this turned into the spotlight. And the reason why we decided to build a file sharing app that leverages all of these technologies is to create awareness. So that's exactly why we published a blog, which is right over in this link, that kind of uh, takes the process around building a censorship-resistant file sharing app with Codex and WACO as an inspiration for such use cases. And we also had a mention on this blog for the future scope, where we mentioned TACo to be a really good addition for decentralized access control. And fortunately, we had small co-working happening between the TACo team and the projects here at IFT, and we were able to integrate TACo into the file sharing app that is completely open source, and it's live as well. So you can find all the links for the application in this particular blog post. It's open source if you want to look at the implementation of WACO, Codex, and TACo. And I did demonstrate the application in the last community call as well, but we didn't have the TACo functionalities back then, but we have the TACo functionalities working. So yeah, that's probably going to be the highlight of this month from a Codex perspective. But yeah, I have a couple of questions lined up for the TACo team as well. I wanted to understand what was the motivation behind you deciding to, help us with this project by integrating TACo to add decentralized access control.
Well, we are definitely excited to join forces with other projects focused on privacy, decentralization, Web3. I believe the TACo team have a strong commitment with these aspects. We all share the same growing concern about these daily attacks on privacy around the world and these increasing censorship around certain topics. So I think working together with projects that are concerned about the same stuff, that have the same concerns is great. I think if we were in a dating app, this would be a match for sure. So I'm happy to work with you all.
Yeah, just to add to what Manu said, I definitely have felt that very similar missions between Logos, WACO, and Codex and TACo. I think the sort of two outcomes of decentralization, or the two reasons to decentralize, maybe there's more, but the main two are to avoid censorship or deplatforming, and then the other big one is the sort of monitoring and surveillance that can occur when you use centralized servers. I think that the combination of programmable end-to-end encryption like TACo, along with the transport layer that's decentralized from the ground up, messaging, gossip layer, and then storage is kind of, in a way, a sort of minimum viable stack for a, as you described, cypherpunk application, or an application built on a cypherpunk stack. We used to say, as an analogy, like for people who were not super familiar with blockchain, that TACo is a little bit like Signal and Tor combined, just as a very, very loose analogy. I actually think TACo with WACO and Codex does come closer to that, because it has sort of, it gets across the network aspect, but also the main point of reference for mainstream folks for end-to-end encryption would be like a Signal I guess WhatsApp too, but obviously there's a huge amount of metadata leakage and surveillance happening with that particular application. So it's very exciting, in short, to bring these technologies together. And CipherShare is a really good manifestation of it. I mentioned, I think, in the first call when we discussed this, that really keen to build demos that have Web 2 equivalents that you can directly compare to. So you can say, okay, CipherShare versus WeTransfer. And then if you can see a similar utility and user experience and smoothness of use, and then say, but there's no deplatforming, there's no monitoring, there's no reselling of your activity to a bunch of buyers out in the retargeting ether, then that becomes quite a compelling offer to everyday users.
Yeah, I completely agree. This definitely started as a hobby project in my side, but yeah, it's still hosted on my domain. But then I feel like it's a combined effort from all of us. And thanks for making the hobby project a very useful reference that can serve the developer community who wish to use and build privacy preserving applications. So yeah, the idea in the inception looked like using Codex as the storage layer and using WAKU for transporting the metadata between the peers. But eventually there were concerns in terms of privacy because WAKU and Codex inherently are open networks, which means that all the data in these networks are public facing and can be accessed by anyone. But this also provides additional independence for developers to build their own cryptographic access controls or any kind of access control system in place. And that's where TACo readily integrated into our stack. But do you guys have any specific opinions on how, or your experience with Codex and WAKU itself? Do you guys have a specific opinion about how these three technologies could go forward in the future?
Well, as you guys said, I think like every developer concerned with the current wall of centralization, censorship, or lack of privacy should consider this like a privacy trident. I mean, WAKU, Codex, and TACo. Well, if you are an application developer, in your next application, you could consider WAKU. That WAKU will provide message transmissions in real time, gas-free, permissionless, and decentralized. Codex can be your censorship-resistant, decentralized storage provider. TACo is giving you the chance to encrypt this data being stored in Codex or transmitted by WAKU. It gives you the possibility of control who is going to be able to decrypt the information based on on-chain, but also off-chain conditions, like if someone has an NFT of a specific NFT collection, or maybe following some smart contracts logic that you want to implement. You can also have an allow list of Ethereum addresses that are allowed to decrypt. You can also use JSON web tokens, so you can have more Web2 use cases if you need it. I think there is a wide range of use cases in which you can use this powerful trident for your application. I don't know, for instance, you can create an application or protocol for voting and governance in which WAKU distributes ballots in real time to the voters. Results are publicly verifiable, stored by Codex, and TACo keeps the votes anonymous until the results are revealed. or you can have a data market that is built on top of these 3 layers. Data markets in which researchers or companies can exchange data sets without intermediaries, or you can create a new collaboration app like Google Docs, with access control by TACo, storage by Codex, and real-time messaging through Waku. I can think of a lot of examples in which this union of technologies is great.
Yeah, I completely agree to that. I feel like we had a very recent launch. I saw Václav posting about it earlier on Twitter. The spreadsheets, the decentralized spreadsheets that just got out. Václav, do you want to give a small shout out to it, and also maybe add how TACo and Waku and Codex can be integrated into it potentially?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you know Fileverse, it's one of my favorite teams in the Web3. They are just building useful stuff without any tokens, airdrops, or shilling anything. They just keep building. So they have the ddocs.new for a while. I've been using that almost daily. And yesterday they launched dsheets, DSHEETS.new. Where you can go and you can basically get into a decentralized Excel spreadsheet, alternative to Google Sheets. And it mostly works. I've already filed issues. Please do so as well. They love issues from people. Where this can come together, one thing that I keep talking to them about, and they are just busy with other things, and I completely understand that, but we agree that we will talk about it more, is the collaborative tools with ddocs, where currently it's using some WebRTC server somewhere in Heroku, and it could be using Waku for signaling between collaborators, right? At the same time, they are using some encryption, end-to-end encrypted everything, but I could be using TACo for more kind of gating. And I know they are working on with the spreadsheets on some token gating and being able to make sure that only allowed people have access, although the link is public and things like that. So maybe there is a space for TACo integration as well. And then obviously they store everything on IPFS, which there is, like, Codex is an alternative to that, because I believe, and I'm not gonna say I'm 100% sure, but I think they're just using Pinata for pinning to the IPFS, which works. It's an HTTP gateway. It works, but it's not truly decentralized from the perspective of there is just one node hosting the data, and if that node goes down, like, it's not censorship resistant in that manner. So using Codex Marketplace would make it way more censorship resistant if we integrated all these technologies. But yeah, it's a process, it's a complex process, and they're just shipping very interesting, very cool stuff. So I guess that they go with whatever they understand. And I guess it's up to us, the community of Fileverse, to help them bring more technology that we like and that we think is better than what they have right now.
Yeah, I would definitely love having a doc that I can just share with a couple of the NFT holders that I have for a particular NFT. And I feel like TACo could be a great fit for that, like decentralized access control, similar to Google Docs, but you just add their wallet addresses instead of emails, and they'll be able to kind of look at the doc.
Yeah, just to echo some of the points, Fileverse is a really cool team. I agree. It chimes exactly with what I was saying. Release Web3 versions of heavily used Web2 utilities. In terms of integrating TACo, I think it's similar to what you said about Codex, the potential for Codex there, in that their end-to-end encryption is centralized. So it is privacy preserving, but obviously is a single point of failure. And obviously access, having a distributed redundant network is pretty valuable, like highly available and monitored for availability. When I spoke to them, the probably the path of least resistance is using TACo as the encryption layer for backups, because that's a lot more straightforward than real-time collaboration. But yeah, I think, as is the theme of this meeting, in combination with WACU, maybe the intra-collaborator signaling could be a lot more straightforward. So I think that's an exciting pathway. I think there's plenty of others. Coming back to Guru's original question, we actually just won the Web3 Privacy Now applied cryptography hackathon, and Codex is in the stack, so that's cool. The project's called Canary. It is a automated dead man switch for releasing evidence or documents, obviously based on some time elapsing and you're not resetting the switch. So this is kind of cool. I bring it up for a few reasons. It's a good example of using two of these technologies in concert, and you can specify a sort of rich conditionality for your documents or evidence or data being released. For example, if I don't reset my switch because I don't know, been arrested or something, then share it with these particular journalists. Or if I don't reset it after a week, then share it publicly with the entire internet. All of that is possible. And one of the next iterations for this technology that's on the roadmap for Canary is integrating with geolocation sharing, which is also like a very interesting safety mechanism, right? If you don't reset a switch, share your location. So that's like a perfect use case for WACU. And in fact, as everyone on this call knows, we already built a WACU TACo combination that was around location sharing called ARC. So there's a lot of pieces here, like puzzle pieces, a lot of really good movement in the last 6 months or so. And yeah, it's not just theoretical. I think we've got applications that work and can be combined further to, for example, take a location sharing app and then combine it with a dead man switch, and there you have like a niche utility which people could potentially use. Journalists and activists and human rights lawyers could use it, but also people could use it if they're visiting ETHCC and they're worried about getting kidnapped. It's a pretty broadly interesting safety tool.
If I can comment on a few things. Much earlier in this stream, you mentioned that it's sometimes not clear, that it's sometimes not clear how to bring TACo in front of people, and then you use example of, for example, Signal being encrypted end to end. With the push on kind of against privacy in various countries, where, for example, Apple used to be able to completely protect their privacy, and now it cannot because of laws. That could be also a big use case for TACo, some kind of an open advanced data protection solution built on top of TACo and potentially Codex as well, where you could make sure and be sure that nobody else than you can actually decrypt your data, decrypt your password manager, and all these things, where the traditional companies that would have historically protected your privacy would now fail because they want to operate in a market that prohibits them from being completely private and protected.
Yeah, I feel like the output from this 1 month after this particular Cypher Share application has gone out has been really good, because we did a presentation at Switzerland. We also had a bounty over there for Waku and Codex, and we had 3 submissions in the last 3 days of the build week, which is really cool. And we had very good projects submitted there. But apart from that, we have close to 100 projects built on top of Codex and Waku, which are listed down in these repositories. The first one is the awesome Waku repository, and the second one is the awesome Codex repository. So yeah, it's a good reference point to see example apps that have been built previously. And we had a project called Becamos win ETH Rome last year, and this was exactly similar, where they relay the location coordinates using Waku, and the only missing part was an encryption layer, because if someone knows the particular content topic that you are in, they can pretty much find your location, since relaying on Waku and storage on Codex is open. But yeah, that's where something like Threshold would fit in perfectly. And I'm really excited to check out this project called Canary. And I encourage you to check this out as well. The link is right on the screen. So yeah, the next question that I have for the TACo team is about the roadmap. Do you guys have any good mentions on the starting point for a developer who wants to build a decentralized access control in their existing apps? What should be the best place to get started, and how does the roadmap look like?
Yeah, Manu, why don't you go ahead and talk through the integration flow and the documentation, and then I'll talk about the roadmap. And then I'd also like to answer Jobin's question about how we differ from Lit. That's my favorite question to answer.
Oh yeah, just before we have Manu answering it, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down on our Twitter or YouTube live streams, and we'll have a separate section in today's live stream where we answer all the questions from the audience. But yeah, Manu.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, let me explain a little bit about the how we integrate TACo in CipherShare. As we mentioned, we are introducing the encryption and the access control into this application. So when you are sharing some files through CipherShare, you can optionally activate the TACo encryption and select some conditions under which the encryption will actually happen. For example, you can set a time frame during which the data will be available, and after that, the receivers are not going to be able to decrypt the information anymore. Also, you can specify an NFT collection, so only the wallets with an NFT of this collection can decrypt the data. Or you can set that only the wallets with a positive balance of Ether can decrypt the information. So you are making sure that the recipient is somehow involved in Web3, and this is not just a new empty wallet. We decide that these are relevant TACo conditions for CipherShare, but others might be easily integrated. And the integration actually is pretty fast and pretty easy, in my opinion. We have an API, which is a TypeScript library, so you can integrate in your application and interact with the TACo network, with the TACo protocol using it. There is function for encryption, there are functions for decryption, you can define what are the conditions you want for your application. It's pretty straightforward and easy.
Perfect. Arch, do you want to give a quick overview on how the roadmap looks like for TACo? And we also have a couple of questions lined up after that. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So one project, so we're already on mainnet. So most of the work we do is reacting to external requests, extensions, adding more chains, adding more complex conditionality, we have a really interesting suite of condition lingo, like our condition language, which has gone from being somewhat rudimentary to like you can construct very complex combinations of conditions. You can use if then else logic. You can sequence calls so that you could say, hey, call all of these weather APIs, and then if they resolve within a confidence interval, then proceed to check this condition, which is a blockchain condition. And then if that, depending on the result of that, check whether it's in an allowed time frame, which is coming from like a block stamp. So we've really been building out this condition combination suite to cater to as wide a range of use cases as possible. In terms of partnerships, obviously excited to continue building stuff with Logos and Waku and Codex. I mentioned earlier this project OpenDRM. That's a really exciting project. We're working with mainstream or large fan base facing creators on an alternative to the current digital rights management systems that are basically price gouging. A lot of people will be shocked to know that like when you buy a book and it's available through Adobe, they're charging like $5 for basically doing nothing, just being a viewer. So we're working with a viewer partner. They have a fixed layout viewer that is compatible with lots of social networks and kind of going right to where the fan bases are. And obviously TACo is providing the access control system, the decryption rights, etc. And yeah, that's really exciting because our partners there have a bunch of creators with millions of followers, and they're really just looking for a DRM system that doesn't screw them over. And on the consumer side, like the fan side, what they get is this permanent, unfettered, censorship-resistant access. They're not getting rug pulled by centralized platforms that get acquired or go out of business and they lose access to their whole library. The classic question is, what happens to your Spotify collection when you stop paying the subscription? You might put 10 years of work into that, and obviously like a lot of money, but you do not own it. So moving back towards that concept of physical ownership, but obviously with the convenience of digital access. So that's just a very exciting project that I like to talk about. And then I'll quickly answer the Lit question. So Lit has a very different underlying security model to us. They are obviously reliant on trusted execution environments, and that comes with a lot of the supply chain risk. They have also relied on a small group of, I guess you could say, if you're being ungenerous, insiders to be their network. For a long time, they were saying they were decentralized, but they then 2 years after that said, now we're decentralized. So we're a little bit skeptical of that. Obviously, TACo has started with 100-strong network, access enforced by cohorts of nodes from the very beginning. There wasn't really like a progressive decentralization phase for TACo because, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, including just being really transparent and really and committed to, I guess, a cypherpunk ideology. But also on a practical note, it's very, very difficult to retroactively encrypt data from a centralized crypto system or a semi-centralized crypto system to a decentralized crypto system. There is one way of doing that. It's called proactive secret sharing, but I don't think anyone has actually worked out how to operationalize that. And so it is kind of a cryptographic imperative to launch your network decentralized from the beginning. because, as I mentioned earlier, every byte of data that's encrypted, it's real world data. We had real world adopters within the first month of launching, and you can't really like tell end users to go back and download the data and then encrypt it again under this new system once you work out how to decentralize. So that we had a very kind of like different starting point from them in terms of when and if decentralization would actually happen.
Perfect. Yeah. In addition to it, I also love the developer experience. As a DevRel, I always compare the developer experience between multiple projects. And I'm not sure about Lit. I've never used it on a project, but then I really love the developer experience with TACo, because you have this TACo playground, which kind of helps you move blocks to understand how the conditions and logics are set. And I really would love more features on this part. And I've had similar feedback from other devs at Switzerland as well. They really loved how you pull blocks to formulate the conditions. And also we have a docs section in the TACo docs, which kind of gives a shout out to Waku and Codex. So thanks for that. And I really feel like this is how technologies cross-pollinate around this ecosystem, especially within the privacy side of Web3. There's just a handful of projects who cater the cypherpunk side of Web3, because most of the projects are targeting sufficient decentralization. But with Codex, Waku, and TACo, I feel like this is more on the side of state-of-art decentralization. So yeah, I also would like to give a shout out to Vaslav's hobby project, Kwaku, which is a question and answers bot, or a question and answers service built on top of Codex. And I would eventually wish this to be the way in which people ask questions to us on these spaces. And yeah, it's all about dogfooding such projects. And yeah, Vaslav, do you also want to talk about how Kwaku works? And do you see a use case for TACo in some way?
Well, I see. That's the thing about TACo. It's just so powerful that I see use cases in most projects that I built. It's just that I'm too lazy to actually learn how to use it and actually integrate it. So Kwaku is, as Guru said, Q&As over Waku. Initially started also as a very hobby project where I just wanted to try how JS Waku works. It works pretty well. And eventually it grew into a relatively full-blown Q&A platform. We have a new UI that is being integrated, but I'm also lazy around that, as I like to tinker with new things and not just work on stuff that is obvious. So the UI will improve eventually. And it integrates also Codex in a way where if you create a Q&A, the Q&A will for some time live in the Waku network, but once it's too old for Waku network to hold on to it, it will disappear, and then your Q&A is just gone forever. But there is a way to snapshot the whole state of the Q&A and push it to Codex if you configure a node there, and that way you can preserve it for longer, and then other users can pull it from Codex and reinstantiate the Q&A. Currently, Kwaku is, or the Q&As are mostly open completely, or they are protected by a symmetric key, which you configure when you are creating the Q&A, and then you need to share the key or a password, you can call it, out of band basically with the URL or the ID of the Q&A. That works pretty well because that's how most of these things work anyway. You send someone a link, and when they have a link, they can access. If they don't have a link where there is some hash as an identifier, they can't access. But if you want to be more secretful or private, then yes, you need something like TACo where the access control is not bound to knowing or not knowing short string, but it's bound to ownership or being able to prove who you are, or being able to prove that you are part of some membership group, or a location. Even like you could do a Q&A at a conference where only conference participants can ask because they are at a particular venue. So that's up to the point where you can instruct the rules for a particular Q&A based on whatever rule set TACo allows you to use or provide. Obviously, it's not there, but that is something that I had in mind since I started working on Kwaku, because I think the fit with TACo is there very obviously, like with most of these projects that we tend to build, because it's such a valuable pillar of encryption is such a valuable, and access control is such a valuable pillar of Web3, which is not solved well without something like TACo, where you have the cohort of nodes taking care of your encryption material.
Yep. We also have another comment. So yeah, I really like when all these pieces come together to form one decentralized solution or a project that is exposed to the end consumers. And I feel like compute is another aspect that we are trying to bridge in. I would love to see CipherShare being deployed on Akash, and that's something that is on my to-do list. But yeah, I think we already have a Codex template available over there, so you can head on to the Akash marketplace and run a Codex node within a matter of few clicks. So yeah, that's really good news. And we also have another opportunity to integrate TACo within the Codex Vault app itself. We have the Codex Vault app at app.codex.storage, and this is kind of open at this point. You can upload any file into it, but we can also add a TACo layer into this where you can optionally access control the files that you upload. And this is a nice area for anyone who wants to start contributing to Codex or TACo. Just look at the Codex app repository on the Codex storage GitHub, and you can probably make a PR, because we've had external community contributors who helped us out adding a lot of features recently. And one such example is the token gating feature that we have in the CipherShare app. Initially, I think the core contributors at TACo added two conditional features, the one with time limitation of 60 seconds, so that the file will only be accessible for 60 seconds, and the other one was a non-zero ETH balance. And fortunately, someone who was hacking at Switzerland also opened up a PR which integrates a new condition into this, which is the token gating condition, which makes sure that a file is only accessible to a particular set of users who hold a particular NFT. So yeah, all of these repositories are open source. So feel free to create a PR if you have some time. And it's also a great way to learn these technologies. All right. We do have some questions that are a bit more generic before we wind up today's space. So I wanted to ask you guys, what are your favorite pro-privacy projects apart from Codex, Waku, and TACo? Do you guys have other projects that you really enjoy using or you look forward to use?
Well, I've been using the Graph and Doom for a while because the needs of TACo. They are great, I think. It's a good work, it's easy to use. So yeah, especially the Graph, I think they had a good idea and use them. I use their products a lot. Yeah.
Václav, do you have one?
I'm a big fan of Railgun. I can't say I use it really, but I like the idea. I've been checking the SDK. I would like to try to prototype some kind of privacy-enabled funding platform, something like a Kickstarter, but you don't know who actually contributed. If you could shield the transactions with Railgun and then just have the money in some pool and execute some transactions after the funding ends or something like that. I haven't thought too much about it, but I feel like there is a lot of features that we could leverage for interesting use cases with Railgun. So that's probably my most favorite project, although I don't really use it much because I try to be focused on privacy, but I don't how do you say that? I don't do what I preach, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got a drop. I will say I've honestly been mostly inspired by projects outside of Web3. Whistleblower channels like Global Leaks, I think are amazing. doing real work in the real world. Obviously, there's some really cool projects within our ecosystem. I think NIM VPN is an interesting one, again, because it's going directly to the consumer, competing with the questionable VPNs like that are out there. There are plenty. And oh yeah, one last thing I wanted to say was the comment Vaclav made earlier about Apple's encrypted iCloud and them having to turn that off in the UK. Certainly, there's an opportunity there, and I guess this advanced data protection space is another really interesting way to potentially reach new audiences and protect privacy and avoid surveillance more broadly. Thank you so much for hosting this, Guru, and thanks everyone who joined.
Thanks for joining us, Arch. But yeah, I have a very similar take on this, just like Arch has, because I've been using a lot of VPNs over the years, and I feel like, yeah, NIM VPN is something that I haven't tried out yet, but I recently started using WireGuard, sorry, and WireGuard has been pretty good in terms of having more control over my VPN choices. So yeah, I would definitely try NIM VPN out as well. But yeah, the next question that I've already had in my mind is, what do you think are the current challenges that are being faced by consumers in terms of getting adopted into Web3, or what are the developer challenges? So do you guys have something on top of your mind about the general challenges in terms of adoption?
Well, I think that the onboarding process is taking great steps forward, but it's still something that a lot of people, for some people, it's hard to be introducing blockchain technologies because of this onboard for the onboarding. So yeah, this is today is a big step to cross for people that don't want to be aware about what wallet they are using or what browser plugin they have to use. So yeah, it's a big challenge, I think, even today.
From my perspective, we've been using the word privacy a lot. And when I talk to people, they say they think privacy is important, but then when you start digging deeper, they either can't really imagine what privacy means or what it could mean, or they will even say that they are happy to give up their privacy if the bad people are punished, right? So like, I would rather have my bank account being public than the bad guys being able to steal money. I don't believe that. I think that's like, because this is not gonna really happen for them, they will say this. So from my perspective, selling as a developer a privacy solution, talking about privacy, is something that does not necessarily work super well. What it seems to me lately that people react better to is censorship resistance. And I think, for example, in case of Codex, there is a very clear censorship resistance proposal or censorship resistance value in there. Like if I upload to Codex and I store it through Marketplace, there is a contract, it's stored on various nodes. Nobody can prevent people from accessing my data, and nobody can prevent me from accessing the data as long as I have online access. From the perspective of privacy, that's very hard. Like privacy has to be there in the infra, but then also on the application level and on all the other levels. And like we should not really talk about it. It should just be there. But I think that censorship resistance is much clearer for people. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but that was what I thought about when you asked the question. So I guess that that's it.
Yeah, it's more about the understanding of privacy itself. And then Manu's comment was around the usability, the compromise on usability that we have with all these privacy preserving tools, which require you to run a node or do something that's beyond just using the app. And yeah, I feel like another feature that we added to solve this in the CipherShare app is the hosted node option, so that folks can just give a shot to the file sharing app before they decide to run a node. And yeah, that's simply by running a managed node at this point. But I feel like another potential would be to kind of decentralize this by enabling people to run managed nodes, maybe on something like Akash, and then give people access to managed nodes. But yeah, this is still a problem that has to be solved. But if you want to run a Codex node, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is to run the npx codex storage command on your terminal, and this will guide you through the process of running a Codex node locally in your machine. And we also have a video tutorial and documentation for the same. So check out the docs for being able to run your own Codex node. And yeah, we're on Akash as well, if you want to run one on Akash without having to deal with all of these things. But yes, I think that brings us to the end of today's space. Also check out the TACo docs. They have a really smooth developer onboarding from what I see, and it's pretty easy to get started if you already have a project or if you want to experiment it. Also, I want to check with Manu. Do you guys have some boilerplate apps apart from CipherShare, like other example apps that you would like to shout out for the developers to check out?
Yeah. We have on our GitHub, github.com/newcipher-taco web. We have demos, examples using since just Node.js to examples built in Next.js, React. So we have several examples, very simple, just straight to the point to use TACo, and it's a good start. Yeah, I think also to say that we have a mainnet, but also a testnet, so you can test your first approach to the use of TACo. You can use TACo for free. Obviously, the testnet has a little few number of nodes, not like the mainnet, but you can get an idea about how TACo works and how to use it.
Perfect. On that note, we also have the Codex testnet, non-incentivized testnet ready. So yeah, you already have the playground to turn your ideas into a prototype, at least at this point. And we are very happy to help you with any kind of technical support. So feel free to join our Discords. We have the Waku Discord, Codex Discord, and TACo Discord. You can find all of them on our landing pages all around. So yeah, Vaslav, do you have your final words, or do you want to give particular CTAs for folks to get started with Waku?
Not really. You said come to Discord. That's probably the best place to start. Find us there, ask questions. We are building a lot of interesting stuff on the infrastructure level, but also on the application level. Go to forum.logos.co. There is a bunch of applications that we have prototyped. And you can either just look at them and see how Codex and Waku are integrated, or you can go and contribute if you find something interesting. And yeah, just keep hacking, I guess. Like, never stop hacking. It's my mantra.
I agree.
All right. Bye-bye, guys. Thanks for joining us for today's community call, and I'll see you in the next month's community call.
Thank you. Bye.